Hello everyone, this is Robyn and welcome to MYPINKSTAMPER.com. Today I have a really cool and elegant card that can be used for a wedding or a baby shower or just maybe a friend. And you can change the colors out if you don't like the color that I'm using on this card. It can be easily interchanged. So I will go ahead and tell you what I'm using on the screen with the item code as I'm using it. You can purchase any of these items directly from my shopping page, mypinkstamper.stampinup.net, and we will go ahead and jump right in and get started. Okay, the very first thing we're going to do a little watercoloring today, and we're also going to be doing a little bit of embossing, which you're going to love. This card is just gorgeous. We're doing embossing, watercoloring, we're using the Big Shot. This card has a little bit of everything that you will need to really impress your family and your friends. Okay, very first thing I'm going to do, I'm using our Stampin' Grid paper right here. This is great to add on top of your workspace just so you don't get ink or, you know, today I'm working with embossing powder. I like to use this so I don't get a lot of powder everywhere all over my space. All right, so I am going to start with our watercolor paper. And then I'm using our embossing buddy, and I'm just going to put a little bit right here. I'm just going to be embossing right here. The next thing I'm using is my VERSAMARK stamp pad. And then I'll be using our silver embossing powder that I have just poured into a dollar store container. I'm going to have all of these items out and ready. I'm also using the heat tool, the Stampin' Up heat tool, so have this ready when you start embossing. And the stamp that I'm using, the stamp set, I'm using Born to be Loved, and I'm using So Happy for You, but you could also use the Born to be Loved if you'd like that as well, but I'm using So Happy for You. And one of my friends asked if I would make her some wedding cards, so I thought this would be great to make her a set of wedding cards with this stamp set and this technique. Okay, so I'm just going to ink it up, and what I'd like to do when I'm using the VERSAMARK, I usually just turn things upside down, and then I'll stamp it. Press firmly without rocking. If you rock back and forth, you may get the edges of the stamp on your paper, and I have had that happen. It's really not a big deal, but if you don't want that to happen, just be a little careful when you're stamping it. Okay, so I have So Happy for You with the embossing powder. Shake this off. There was a little bit on there. And I'm going to pull out my embossing gun, my heat tool. And all you do, I know some people like to go round and round. It does the same thing if you just hold it in one spot. And then once it starts to melt, I do it at an angle. Once it starts to melt, you can see the consistency change. It starts to become shiny. Do you see that? It's just really magical. Okay, so this is all embossed, and I'm just going to let it just sit here for just a few seconds while it cools down. Now I'm using one of our clear blocks, and I'm using pink Pirouette Stampin' Ink refill, and then I'm also using our AQUA painter. And this comes in a set of two. I'm just using one of them. And I'm going to do a little watercoloring on top of this. So I like to use this as a palette. You can just also use a plate. So I'm going to do 2 dots. It's a really light color. So when you're doing this technique to watercolor, just check out the color first, maybe on a scrap piece of paper. So I added a few drops from the AQUA painter. And now I'm just going to, I start in the middle, and I'm just going to kind of go up so it's lighter on that side. Then it's lighter over here. And you can add to it. You can always make it darker, but you really can't make it lighter. So I just have So happy for you, and it's just with the wash. And I'm going to set that aside. Now I'm going to pull out our Big Shot, so I'll set my grid paper aside. This is the Stampin' Up! Big Shot. So you can use it for embossing or for cutting our thinlits and framelits out. I'm going to stick it on here, and I'm using our Sweet and Sassy framelits. They're a set of hearts. They have different shapes. They have 2 different shapes in various sizes. So I'm going to start with the smaller of the 2 that I chose that fit around here perfectly. And just run this through. Oops. Now I have a cute watercolored heart. And now I'm going to take the next size up here, and I'm going to take some of our silver foil. This is from a silver foil sheet, and it's just gorgeous. So I want to really utilize my paper so I can save the rest. That's not one I waste at all. I make sure that I use every bit, every scrap of my glimmer and my foil. Okay, so now I have my heart right here. Now while I have my Big Shot out, I'm going to switch my platforms, and I'm just going to use, this is the Big Shot multi-purpose platform that comes with your Big Shot when you purchase it, and this can be purchased directly from my shopping page. You do not need the top part. You can either open it if you have the older version, or you can just take the top part off. I'm going to put one of our standard cutting pads on the bottom, and I'm using the Sweetheart embossing folder, and I'm using that with a piece of our pink Pirouette cardstock, and I've cut it at 3 3/4 by 5 inches. Now this is a fun embossing folder because there's a heart on here that's not used, and it's not embossed, and I'm actually just going to cover right over that when I make my card. But you could do a lot of fun things with that. So I kind of have it set off to the left a little bit. So it's just kind of offset to the left. I'm going to add the top standard cutting pad and roll that through. And set my Big Shot aside because I'm actually done with the Big Shot for this project. And you ready? Let's open it up. And I have a beautiful embossed, isn't that just gorgeous? Okay, we're almost done. We can put the final steps, the final pieces together on this card. I have a piece of our silver glimmer paper. This is cut at 4 inches by 5 1/4, so you can get 6 of these from one sheet or 12 from one of our packages. And now since I'm adding cardstock directly onto glimmer, I'm going to use some of our tear and tape just to make sure it really sticks on there. And then I'm also going to add some glue dots. Anytime you're using embossing, an embossing folder on paper, always put your adhesive on all 4 sides. And that way it doesn't pop up later. You know, sometimes they do because they're all embossed. Okay? And then I'm also going to do just a strip in the middle as well. Now I'm also, just to double secure it, I'm going to add some glue dots. Now let's add this onto our silver glimmer, yes, silver glimmer. All right, just make sure you get it nice and on there, burnish it. All right, now we're using our gorgeous, beautiful silver edged ribbon, and this is just absolutely gorgeous, and it's soft and it's beautiful. And I'm going to cut just a piece off just so it's enough to go across the bottom like this. And then I'm just going to take some regular tape, and it's Christmas time, so we have a lot of tape lying around, as I'm sure you do as well. I'm going to fold this over like this. Okay, and now I'm going to leave it upside down. This is a piece of our thick Whisper White cardstock, and it's cut at 5.5 by 8.5 inches. And I'm just going to, and I've also scored it at 4.25 just to help it fold over and nice and tight. So I'm going to fold this over, and then I will take some of our regular snail adhesive and add it onto the back of this silver foil right here. And we are almost done. I'm going to take this piece of watercolor. It hasn't completely dried yet. There's still some water in there. So you might want to either use your heat tool. I'm just going to go ahead and put it on right now. I'll just keep an eye on it. I'm going to put it on top of my silver foil that I've cut out just a little bit larger, like this. And then I'm going to turn it upside down, and I'm going to use some of our regular Stampin' Dimensionals. I'm going to actually use 5 just to make sure it's nice and secure on there. All right, so you can just take those off. And now we're going to cover up the heart that was not embossed. And we're not done yet. I'm going to take another little piece of this ribbon, and I'm going to run it through here. So it's just an elegant, lovely card. This would be good if you want to switch the colors out for maybe a baby boy. You could use our soft sky, would look gorgeous, and everything else you could keep the same. Or for a wedding, you could use different colors, or you could actually use their colors, whatever you want to do. All right. So I have our card right here. Isn't it just so pretty and so gorgeous? And the best part about this card is that you can make it too. This is super easy to do. Just follow my instructions. I walked you through how to make it step by step, and you will have great success with it. I just know it. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.